Hello friends, buckle up because this recap is a total brainbender where time itself becomes the trap. One man, James Cole, keeps dreaming of an airport shooting he cannot explain until we learn he is a prisoner in the year Artsenling Centerwu, living underground after a virus erased most of humanity. Scientists promise him freedom, then launch him into the past to find who started the outbreak, only the timeline keeps glitching, dumping him into the wrong years and deeper into madness. A psychiatrist, Dr. Kathryn, thinks he is delusional until impossible proof shows he is telling the truth. And here is the twist. Every clue he finds creates the very loop that sends him back again. As the so-called army of the arm monkeys closes in, one quiet man with a briefcase may be the apocalypse. If you blink, you will miss the moment the future changes and the past snaps shut like a bear trap. Let's start, friends.
A man named James Cole often had a recurring dream. In it, he saw a man running through an airport before being shot in public. A woman cried uncontrollably over the man's death, while a young boy standing with his parents witnessed the entire scene. One morning, James suddenly woke up from this dream. The year was 2035. Humanity now lived underground because 38 years earlier, in 1997, a deadly virus had spread across the world, wiping out 5 billion people. The survivors had taken refuge underground to escape the virus, and now wild animals ruled the surface of the earth. Underground, humans built entire colonies and continued to live under strict rules and regulations. Even prisons were built for criminals, where they were treated like animals. James was one of the prisoners. Scientists still hadn't found a cure for the virus, but they were desperately trying to create an antivirus. They used inmates for their experiments, showing no regard for their lives. Sometimes, they sent prisoners to the surface to collect insect samples or for other research purposes. If a prisoner got infected, they were immediately killed. The prisoners lived in constant fear, never knowing when their turn would come for the next experiment. That morning, James's name was called for an experiment. Terrified, he panicked as his friend Jose, locked in the next cell, worried for him. Moments later, 2 guards came, grabbed James, and took him to a room where a group of scientists was waiting. They asked James to sit on a chair at the back of the room. As soon as he sat down, his hands were locked in place, and the chair lifted off the ground, facing a circular screen where the scientists' faces appeared. A female scientist spoke to him, saying, "James, we've seen that you're physically and mentally strong, so we want you to take part in one of our experiments. We have a chance to find a cure for the virus and return to the surface. If you help us, we'll release you from prison. Will you help us?" James agreed. And with that, the story took a new turn, transporting us to April 1990. In Baltimore, a psychiatrist named Dr. Kathryn arrived at a mental institution. The police had arrested a man who seemed insane. They claimed he had been running naked through the streets, shouting that a deadly virus was about to spread. He carried no ID, and no one knew who he was. The man himself had no idea where he was or what day it was. The police had beaten him and forcibly admitted him to the institution. The doctors sedated him to calm him down. When Dr. Kathryn went to meet the man, she was shocked. The madman was none other than James. In fact, scientists from the future had invented a time machine and sent James back to the year 1996 to gather information about the origins of the virus, who started it, and where it came from. But when Kathryn met him, James asked her what year it was. She told him it was 1990. Hearing this, James became restless and said, "This shouldn't have happened. I was supposed to be sent to 1996. I ended up in 1990 by mistake." After hearing this, Kathryn assumed he truly was insane and admitted him to her hospital for treatment. The hospital staff bathed James and brought him before a team of doctors, with Kathryn also present. As soon as James saw them, he said, "Why don't you people understand? I'm not crazy. I was sent back in time through a time machine. I was meant to arrive in 1996, but due to some problem, I landed in 1990. The doctors smiled and asked, "So, you believe you're from the future? Then tell us, James, why are you here?" James replied, "In the years 1996 and 1997, a deadly virus will spread across the world, killing 5 billion people." One of the doctors asked, "Are you here to stop it?" James shook his head and said, "No. No one can change what has already happened, and no one can go back in time to save anyone. I've only been sent here to collect information about how and where the virus began, because it mutates so rapidly that studying it later becomes impossible. That's why I was sent to 1996, when the virus still existed in its pure form. If I can gather enough information before it spreads, the scientists in my time can use it to find a cure and make Earth livable again." He then added, "I just need to make a phone call, and I'll be back in my time." He wanted to leave a voice message for the scientists, saying, "They've sent me to the wrong time." The doctor gave James a chance to prove his claim by handing him the phone. James dialed the number the scientist had given him, but unfortunately, it connected to a random woman's house who had nothing to do with the scientists. This deeply disappointed James. Then, he remembered that he was supposed to go to 1996, meaning the number would only work in that year. But since he was in 1990, the number didn't connect. The doctors were now certain that James had completely lost his mind, and that his so-called future world was just a delusion. They forcibly admitted him to the hospital. The next morning, James was sitting alone, writing something on paper. A documentary was playing on TV, showing scientists torturing animals for experiments. Then, a man named Jeffrey Goines came and sat beside him. Jeffrey was also mentally unstable. He kept talking nonsense like a madman. Jeffrey loved animals and couldn't stand seeing them being tortured. James looked at the TV and said to Jeffrey, "Seeing these acts of humanity, I think it's a good thing that the virus is wiping humans off the world." Hearing this, Jeffrey said, "Wiping humans off the world is a good idea." Then he added with a grin, "Well, that's a long shot. We'll have to come up with another plan." Jeffrey continued, "I know you want to escape from here. I can help you." Hearing this, James asked, "But how?" Just then, hospital staff arrived with medicine for James. After taking it, he became drowsy and sat quietly on a chair. A short while later, Jeffrey returned. He had stolen a gate key from a guard. Handing it to James, he told him to escape as soon as he got the chance. After that, Jeffrey started creating chaos to distract the guards. As all the guards rushed to restrain him, James opened the gate and started running away. Meanwhile, Kathryn was busy collecting more information about James. A staff member came and told her that her patient, James, was missing from his ward. Hearing this, Kathryn began searching for him all over the hospital. James was just about to leave when the guards spotted him. They caught him, dragged him back, tied him tightly to a bed, and injected him with sedatives. A short while later, when the doctors arrived at James's cell, they were stunned by what they saw. James had completely disappeared. The story then shifted back to the future, where James had returned to his own time, the year 2035. Upon his return, the scientists played him a voice message. The message said, "An organization dedicated to protecting animals exists on 2nd Avenue in Philadelphia. It's the secret headquarters of the Army of the 12 Monkeys. I don't know anything about the people who did this. I have to go now. Merry Christmas." After hearing the message, one of the scientists said, "This recording is from the year 1996. However, due to poor signal quality, we can't identify whose voice it is. Did you send this message, James?" James replied, "How could I have sent it? You accidentally sent me to 1990 instead of 1996. The scientist was shocked. James then explained everything that had happened to him during his time in the past. The scientist showed him some photographs of people protesting for animal rights and asked, "Did you see any of these people when you were in 1990? James looked closely, and in one of the photos, he spotted the same crazy man, Jeffrey. James said, "I met this man in a mental asylum." Hearing this, the scientist said, "We're sending you back to the past once again, this time to 1996. You must find the Army of the 12 Monkeys and discover whether they were the ones who released the virus that destroyed the world." The scientist showed James the symbol of the Army of the 12 Monkeys and sent him back in time once more. Unfortunately, James again arrived at the wrong time, the year 1917, during World War I. Naked and confused, he suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Soldiers surrounded him, shouting in their own language, demanding his identity, but James couldn't understand them. Then, he saw soldiers carrying an injured man on a stretcher. When James looked closely, he realized it was his friend Jose, the same man who was imprisoned in the cell next to his. This meant that the scientists were sending other people into the past as well. James called out to Jose and tried to reach him, but just then, a bullet struck his leg. James screamed in pain, and in the next moment, he was pulled out of 1917 and transported once again to another time. It was now November 1996. Dr. Kathryn was giving a lecture at a university in Baltimore about her newly published book. During her lecture, she explained a condition called the Cassandra complex. She told the audience, "This occurs when a person predicts an upcoming catastrophe, but no one believes them. This mental state is known as the Cassandra complex. She then showed the audience a photograph from World War I, a picture of James's friend Jose, taken when soldiers were carrying the injured Jose to a hospital. In reality, any event that happens in a person's past becomes a part of the future. For example, whatever happened to Jose during World War I became part of the future and was recorded in the pages of history. Kathryn told the audience that this man was seen during World War I. He had been wounded in battle and hospitalized. Although doctors and the police couldn't identify him, there was another patient beside him. That patient claimed that the wounded man had told him he was from the future and had come to the past in search of a virus. He also said that the man had predicted a virus would kill billions of people in the year 1996. Hearing this, Kathryn's audience burst into laughter. Then Kathryn said, "The doctors mentioned that the man was so badly injured he couldn't even get out of bed, but suddenly he disappeared and was never seen again." Although Kathryn considered such prophecies to be signs of mental illness, she continued signing autographs for people after the lecture. A man then approached her and said, "You call those who predict the end of the world mentally ill, but I believe that the way humans are fighting wars, increasing the world's population, and spreading pollution, humanity itself is moving toward its end, hollowing out the earth in the process. Don't you think that's madness?" Because of the crowd around her, Kathryn didn't pay much attention to the man's words. A short while later, after leaving the university, she got into her car to head home. Suddenly, a masked man entered her car, forced her to drive, and took control of the vehicle. Frightened, Kathryn asked, "Who are you? Where are you taking me?" The man replied, "I want to go to Philadelphia. You're going to take me there." Hearing this, Kathryn said, "But Philadelphia is miles away. Take my car and let me go." The man replied, "I don't know how to drive because I've been living underground since I was 8 years old. I've already told you this." Upon hearing this, Kathryn realized that the man was none other than James. In fact, James had just arrived straight from World War I to this time period. His leg was still injured, but despite the pain, he was determined to complete his mission. Kathryn asked James, "Where did you disappear 6 years ago? Where have you been all this time? And how did you find me?" James showed her a poster for her book launch and said, "I saw this poster of yours outside a store. You said you'd help me, so I came to you. I found out that a group called the Army of the 12 Monkeys spread the virus around the world, and their headquarters is somewhere in Philadelphia. I have to go there to find them." After traveling for a while, James stopped at a hotel with Kathryn to rest. He tied her to the bed so she couldn't escape. While sleeping, James had the same recurring dream. A man was shot at the airport, and a woman ran toward him crying. This time, James clearly saw the woman's face. She looked exactly like Kathryn, though her hair color was different. James suddenly woke up from the dream, wondering why he kept seeing Kathryn in it. But pushing that thought aside, he continued his journey with her. Meanwhile, the police had received news of Kathryn's disappearance and were searching for her everywhere. During the trip, James was looking through his diary. Seeing it, Kathryn asked what was inside. James explained that it contained clues to locating the Army of the 12 Monkeys. "My mission is to find them," he said, "because they currently possess the virus in its pure form. Once I find it, a scientist from the future will come here to study it. Then that scientist will return to his own time and work with others to develop a cure for the virus." However, Kathryn was still unconvinced by James's story. She believed everything he said was just a part of his imagination. Eventually, they reached Philadelphia. Suddenly, James stopped the car, jumped out, ran toward a wall, and shouted, "I found it! I found the symbol of the Army of the 12 Monkeys." During this time, Kathryn had a chance to escape, but she also wanted to learn the truth about James. She changed her mind and got out of the car to join him. When she came closer, she saw the wall covered with numerous monkey symbols. James realized that the Army of the 12 Monkeys must be somewhere nearby. While wandering around, James noticed a shop with a dummy pig's face displayed outside. He remembered seeing the same dummy face in the photographs the scientists had shown him before sending him to the past. James immediately understood that he would definitely find a clue about the 12 monkeys inside that shop. James went straight into the shop where 2 boys and a girl were present. He asked them about the Army of the 12 Monkeys. All 3 became frightened at the mention of the name, but the girl said she didn't know about any such army. James then grabbed all 3 of them and tied them up. Out of fear, one of the boys said, "I told you this Goines would destroy us." Hearing that, James was shocked and asked, "Are you talking about Jeffrey Goines?" The boy nodded in agreement. James then asked, "What do you know about Jeffrey?" One of the boys told him everything. Jeffrey had been released from a mental asylum a few years ago, thanks to his father. Jeffrey's father, Leland Goines, was a renowned Nobel Prize-winning virologist with powerful connections. His company conducted virus research. After being released from the asylum, Jeffrey became an environmentalist and animal rights activist. He encouraged people to become vegetarians and protested against the sale of animal meat. Once, he even protested against his own father for conducting experiments on animals in his lab, which made him appear on news channels. But when Jeffrey realized his protests wouldn't change the world, he formed a group of 11 other people. Together they called themselves the Army of the 12 Monkeys. Jeffrey and his group started harassing officials who disobeyed them. Sometimes they kidnapped them and locked them in animal cages. Other times, they attacked them with snakes. Later, Jeffrey once again made headlines when, in an interview, he praised his father's work, saying his father's experiments would prove to be a blessing for animals. Since then, Jeffrey had been supporting his father and working for him. After learning all this from the group, James realized that Jeffrey was the one who would spread the deadly virus. He immediately set out with Kathryn for Jeffrey's house. On the way, James felt pain in his injured leg. The bullet was still inside, and his condition could worsen if it wasn't removed. Kathryn took James to a deserted forest, removed the bullet, and bandaged his wound. She kept the bullet with her. Suddenly, James grabbed Kathryn, and the next moment, her scream echoed through the forest. Meanwhile, at Jeffrey's house, his father, Leland, was hosting a party attended by many government officials. Leland had developed a new virus in his lab, and the party was held to celebrate his success. During the event, a policeman guarding the house came to Jeffrey and said they had caught a man trying to break in, claiming to be an old friend of his. Hearing this, Jeffrey went with the policeman. The man they had caught was James. Although Jeffrey pretended not to recognize him, James said, "I know about your monkeys." Hearing this, Jeffrey took him aside. James told him, "Listen, I know you're going to spread a virus in the world, but I can't stop you. I just need information about the virus. Tell me where it is, and I'll leave." Jeffrey first acted like he didn't know what James was talking about, but then said, "It seems you're talking about our plan, the one we made while we were in the asylum watching TV. I was watching a show about animal cruelty, and you might remember that I told you my father is a virologist. You gave me the idea to steal a virus from his lab that could wipe out humans and leave only animals. That was your plan, wasn't it?" Hearing this, James angrily grabbed Jeffrey and said, "You're confusing me. Tell me quickly, where is that virus right now?" Just then, the police guarding Jeffrey's house caught James. He somehow managed to break free and escape. James ran straight to his car and opened the trunk. Kathryn was locked inside. In fact, he had locked her there for her safety. She came out and started hitting James in anger. James told her, "I'm not worthy of forgiveness because I've killed 5 billion people." Kathryn was shocked. James continued, "Jeffrey told me he got the idea from me, to destroy the world with a virus. He must have met me when we were both insane. Maybe while eating together, I gave him the idea under the influence of drugs. And now Jeffrey is about to destroy humanity with that virus." But Kathryn said, "That's not going to happen. You have a mental illness, and because of that, you've created this future world in your mind and believe it to be true." James replied, "It would be better if what you're saying is true and I'm proven insane. Otherwise, I won't be able to live knowing that 5 billion people died because of one of my ideas." Just then, the police from Jeffrey's house began chasing James. Seeing them, Kathryn told James, "Surrender to the police, then I'll treat you." Saying this, she honked the car horn to draw the police's attention. Meanwhile, James was dancing in the water like a madman, enjoying the open air and nature. But in the next moment, when Kathryn turned toward him, James had vanished. Kathryn was stunned. The next morning, the police took Kathryn from the forest to the station. There, a police officer questioned her and took her statement. Still unconvinced that James had come from the future, Kathryn told the officer everything about him and handed over the bullet she had removed from his leg. She insisted that James was mentally ill and needed treatment, so if they found him, they shouldn't harm him. Meanwhile, James had returned to the future, where the scientists congratulated him for discovering that Jeffrey, the leader of the army of the 12 monkeys, was the one spreading the virus. They also gave him good news. His sentence had been pardoned, but James was confused. He started to believe he truly was insane, and that the scientists and the future world were just creations of his mind. Back in the past, Kathryn woke up to the ringing of a telephone. It was a police officer calling to inform her that they had examined the bullet taken from James's leg. The officer told her it was from an ancient time, dating back to World War I. Hearing this, Kathryn was shocked. She quickly went through her World War I research photographs and was stunned to see James in one of them. Indeed, while traveling back to World War I, James had been captured in that photo. As every event that happens in the past becomes a part of the future, the incident involving James had also been recorded in history. Seeing the photograph, Kathryn was speechless. Now, she completely believed James's words. She immediately called Jeffrey's father, Leland, and told him that his son ran a group called the 12 Monkeys and was planning to steal a virus from the lab to release it into the world, killing 5 billion people. Hearing this, Leland laughed. He told Kathryn that his son didn't run any army. He was a bit crazy but not capable of spreading a deadly virus. He assured her the virus was safe in his lab. Leland then hung up, though deep down, he didn't fully trust Jeffrey. Fearing Kathryn's words might be true, he ordered his assistant, Dr. Peter, to tighten the lab's security. Dr. Peter was the same man Kathryn had once met during a lecture at the university. Meanwhile, in the future, the scientists were once again preparing to send James back to 1996. They explained that the virus had first spread in Philadelphia, then to San Francisco, New Orleans, Rio de Janeiro, Rome, Kinshasa, Karachi, Bangkok, and finally, Beijing. This time, James's mission was to find out where the virus had started spreading in Philadelphia. The scientists showed James a newspaper clipping that had a message written on a shop wall. "Is this the place where the virus is going to spread, and 5 billion people are going to die?" They had found this photograph in a 1996 newspaper, so they decided to send James to that exact shop. Meanwhile, Kathryn went to the same shop where she had previously learned about Jeffrey and his 12 Monkeys gang. She knocked on the door, but inside, the 2 boys and the girl didn't open it. This time, Jeffrey was with them, and they were working together on their plan. When they refused to open the door, Kathryn took a can of spray paint and started writing something on the wall. At that moment, the police were secretly monitoring her, suspecting that she was hiding James. Then suddenly, someone called her name. It was James. Kathryn was overjoyed to see him, but James, trapped between reality and illusion, said, "Kathryn, I've realized I'm crazy, and that future world only exists in my mind. This is the real world." Kathryn didn't have time to explain the truth because the police were still searching for him. As she took James away, hiding him from the police, he noticed the words Kathryn had written on the wall. "Is there a virus here? Is this the place where the virus is going to spread and 5 billion people are going to die?" This was the same message James had seen in the future, in that newspaper clipping. The scientists had found Kathryn's writing and, taking it as a clue, sent James to investigate the shop. Seeing the police approaching, Kathryn took James to a hotel and booked a room. Once inside, Kathryn asked James, "Are you really from the future?" James replied, "No, the future world is just a figment of my imagination. You were the one who told me I had a mental illness." Kathryn then showed James the photo from World War I in which he was captured. She asked, "How did you end up in the time of World War I?" Astonished by the photo, James replied, "I don't know. I remember this scene like a dream. I can't tell which world is real and which is an illusion. But whatever it is, I want to live in this world now." Hearing this, Kathryn hugged James. Then Kathryn remembered something and said, "There's a way to find out if you're really from the future or not. The only way is to call the number the scientist gave you to leave a voice message. That number didn't work in 1990, but it's 1996 now. If it connects to your scientist, then you're from the future. But if it connects to something else, then it means everything is just in your imagination." James still remembered that number, but before leaving the hotel, he broke some of his own teeth. When Kathryn asked why, James explained, "Maybe I really am from the future. If that's true, I remember that in the future, the scientist put a tracker in my teeth to locate me and bring me back. But now that I've removed it, they won't be able to take me back." Meanwhile, the police arrived looking for Kathryn and James, but by then, the two had escaped through a window. Kathryn took James to a telephone booth and left him outside while she called the number the scientist had given him. After a while, she came out laughing and said, "You're not from the future, James, and there's no virus spreading here. That number doesn't belong to any scientist. It's for a carpet cleaning company. I even joked with them, saying there's an animal protection organization on 2nd Avenue in Philadelphia." Kathryn had barely finished her sentence when James continued it, saying, "That's where the secret headquarters of the Army of the 12 Monkeys is. They're the ones behind all this. I don't know anything beyond that. I have to go now." Merry Christmas. Kathryn realized that her message had already gone to the future. Before sending James back, the scientist had played that same message to him, but he hadn't recognized Kathryn's voice at the time. It was this very message that gave the scientists the clue that the army of the 12 monkeys had spread the virus. This meant that because of James's arrival in the past, whatever changes occurred there became part of the future. The scientists mistook those changes for clues about the virus and sent James back in time to investigate. Just as Kathryn had informed the scientists about the army of the 12 monkeys, the scientists had sent James to the past to learn more about them. When James realized this, he was shocked. Everything was happening in a loop. However, he was now certain that he truly came from the future. Just then, the police arrived again, and Kathryn had to flee with James. Meanwhile, Jeffrey's army of the 12 monkeys arrived in a van to carry out their mission. Jeffrey and his associates kidnapped a man. It was Jeffrey's father, Leland. Recognizing his son's voice, Leland said, "You fool. I know why you kidnapped me. Psychiatrist Kathryn warned me that you were going to spread the virus I created. But do whatever you want. I won't let you get near that virus." Hearing this, Jeffrey and his team took Leland away. Meanwhile, Kathryn and James had fallen in love. Kathryn disguised both of them so the police wouldn't recognize them. She was ready to take James and leave the city to start a new life together. James noticed that Kathryn looked exactly like she did in his dreams. Was his dream trying to tell him something? Lost in thought, James followed Kathryn as they took a taxi to the airport. On the way, wild animals suddenly appeared in the city. Because of this, their taxi got stuck in traffic. Kathryn asked the driver what was happening. The driver replied, "Didn't you hear the news last night? A crazy group called the Army of the 12 Monkeys freed all the animals from the city zoo and locked scientist Leland inside a cage, but their leader is now in police custody." Hearing this, James and Kathryn realized that Jeffrey and his team never planned to spread the virus. Their real mission was to free animals from the zoo. Jeffrey had kidnapped his father, Leland, and locked him in a cage to teach him a lesson for torturing animals in his lab. With that, Kathryn and James finally arrived at the airport. Kathryn headed to the ticket counter while James left a message for the scientists from the future. He said, "If you can hear me, I want to tell you that the army of the 12 monkeys wasn't the one who spread the virus. It was someone else." James added, "I've done my job by providing this information. I won't be returning to the future." Meanwhile, another man was booking his flight ahead of Kathryn. He had already reserved tickets for several cities in advance, from Philadelphia to San Francisco, then New Orleans, Rio de Janeiro, Rome, Kinshasa, Karachi, Bangkok, and finally Peking. As the scientists from the future already knew, the virus had spread in these cities first, meaning this was the man who would travel around the world and spread the virus. Then Kathryn caught a glimpse of that man. He was none other than Leland's assistant, Dr. Peters. Peters was a nature lover who believed humans were a threat to the Earth. He thought humanity was slowly hollowing out the planet, so he wanted to wipe them all out. He had stolen the virus from Leland's lab, where it had been stored in his briefcase. Now, he was about to spread it across different cities around the world. Peters walked past Kathryn, but she didn't recognize him at first. While buying her ticket, she noticed today's newspaper, which featured an article about Leland and his virus. In that article, she saw a photo of Dr. Peters with Leland. At that very moment, Kathryn remembered what Peters had said during a university lecture, that he hated mankind because he believed humans were destroying the Earth. This made Kathryn realize that Dr. Peters was the one spreading the virus to destroy humanity. She began looking for James to tell him everything. Meanwhile, James was coming out of the bathroom when a man stopped him. That man was his friend from the future, Jose. James asked, "What are you doing here?" Jose replied, "You called from the future and said you wanted to leave this mission, so they sent me here to keep an eye on you." He told James that the army of the 12 monkeys wasn't responsible for the virus, but someone else was spreading it. "Now you must find them at any cost and complete your mission," Jose said, handing James a gun. Just then, Kathryn ran to James and told him she had discovered who was spreading the virus. She quickly took him with her. Meanwhile, airport security noticed something suspicious about Dr. Peters' briefcase. When they opened it, they found vials containing the virus in gas form. The virus had no color or smell, making it completely invisible and undetectable. When questioned, Peters told the customs officer that the vials contained biological samples. He even opened one and showed it to the officer. Unfortunately, the officer made the mistake of smelling it, which meant the virus would now spread in the city through him. Finding the vials empty afterward, the officer allowed Peters to go. As Peters headed toward his flight, James and Kathryn spotted him. James ran after him with the gun, intending to kill him. But seeing the gun in James's hand, a police officer shot James, killing him instantly. Kathryn ran to him and cried uncontrollably over his lifeless body. This was the scene James had always seen in his dreams. That was because, as a child, James had been present at the same airport, standing with his parents and witnessing this exact incident. It had already happened to him in the past, which was why he kept dreaming about it. Meanwhile, Peters boarded his plane to spread the virus in another city, but sitting next to him was a scientist from the future. This meant James had succeeded in his mission by identifying Peters as the one spreading the virus. Jose then returned to the future and informed the scientists about Peters, after which the scientist traveled to the past. Although she couldn't stop the virus from spreading, she could still gather information about it. The scientist did exactly that. She cleverly engaged Peters in conversation, collected all the details about the virus, and upon returning to the future, she managed to find a cure. Because of that, the surviving humans were finally able to return to Earth and continue their existence. Friends, if you liked this video and got lost in the story while watching, please subscribe to support us, so we can keep bringing you more videos like this. Thanks for watching.